Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys again for all of the love and support that you guys have been giving me through this lipedema journey. Today's video is one I've been extremely excited to do because it is all about my journey. So from childhood to when I got my diagnosis and what I'm going through now to get ready for surgery. So let's get started. So we're gonna start with my childhood. So essentially, as long as I can remember, I've been considered a big girl. Even when I was younger, I have always had very big hips and thighs, just all the way down. I was very active. I was in dance, softball, all of those types of things, but I still just had bigger hips. But I still just had bigger legs and somewhat of bigger arms at that point. And as sad as it may sound, I have been on diets essentially since I was in 3rd grade. So that started just because I was I was overweight for my age. And I was one of those people that started puberty pretty early. So I started puberty about in 3rd grade, and I started my menstrual beginning of 4th grade. So that, of course, exacerbated these symptoms when things really started progressing. And I will insert some photos here of what I looked like as a child. I always had joint problems as a kid. I do not know why, but I sprained my knees and my ankles multiple times a year, essentially. And I remember at one point being told that the muscles in my knees were small in comparison to my age or my body size, and they put me in physical therapy for that for quite a while, and it never really did much of anything. Looking back on that now, this is actually a common sign of lipedema, but of course they didn't know about this then. I also always had a lot of bruises, which I know can be normal for kids, but even in my older ages, I've always bruised really easily. And I have always been pretty sensitive, at least on my arms. I remember as a kid, like my dad used to like to go around and like he would like jokingly like poke you in the arm, and it would just kind of irritate other people, but I would actually yell because it hurt my arms so bad, and he wasn't even doing it that hard. So I found that kind of interesting when I was looking back over my childhood. So with me always being kind of overweight as a child, of course, my doctor did thyroid panels multiple times a year essentially. All of these tests always showed that I did not have thyroid disorder up until I was a sophomore in high school, which at that point I was pretty big, which I'm assuming was because my thyroid was, out of control this entire time. So at that point, that's also the year that I met my husband. I was, I believe, 280 pounds already. And from that happened from 7th grade, I believe I was about the point where I hit 200. And by the time I got to my sophomore year, I was 280 pounds. I was bullied horrible in school because I was very, very large. And I was always in pain all the time, and still with all the bruising, and my upper half was a lot bigger than 2, but my legs and my arms were just unnaturally big, and it didn't look like the fat on my upper body. When I was 17, I had reached about 310 or 315 pounds, and I was looking into getting my gastric sleeve surgery and had started that entire process when I fell pregnant with my first son. And that was in 2016 that I had him. I had a very rough pregnancy, a very non-healthy pregnancy. He was born at 30 weeks and had a long NICU stay. So I definitely think that my obesity played a role in that. But I did end up getting my gastric sleeve surgery September 16th of 2016. When I had my surgery, I was 325 pounds. It took me, I think in about 16 months, I had lost 160 pounds total. I was 165 pounds when I got pregnant with my daughter, about 18 months post-surgery. Looking back now, I go through all of my progress photos, and my upper half is so tiny in comparison to my lower half and even my arms. Of course, there's skin to contribute in there, but most of it is completely full with this lipedema tissue. But I still have a ton of lipedema tissue left over all over my body. I'm going to insert some pictures in here to kind of show you the before and after, and so you can see how the gastric sleeve definitely helped, because it took out all of that non-lipedema tissue out of my body. So like I said, about 18 months after my surgery, I got pregnant with my daughter, my second child. And then when she was 6 months old, I had a birth control failure and got pregnant with my third and final child. When she was 6 months old. So over the course of those two pregnancies, I did put on a little bit more weight. But what I find odd about it was that I would lose everything from my pregnancy and then some, but every time I stopped breastfeeding, I would start getting bigger again and gaining weight, but not in my midsection, not in my top at all. So I found that very interesting as well. Because of this, I assumed that this was all regular fat, so I was just working out constantly, trying to weight lift and gain muscle, do everything that I could essentially to get this, what I thought was baby weight, off. And what I found was that I was losing inches on my stomach still, and my face, all like essentially just this area, but my thighs specifically actually went up in measurement, because I was building that muscle there, but it was not taking away any of that lipedema fat. So that just goes to show that diet and exercise really just does not help this lipedema tissue. So that is the background of my life and kind of what led up to this point. And now we're gonna get into what made me realize it was lipedema, how did I find out about lipedema, how did I get my diagnosis. So how I found out about lipedema was because I had been doing some consults with plastic surgeons, looking into getting the excess skin removed from my now 140-pound weight loss. And I was struggling with choosing which ones I wanted to do first. And so I had posted some pictures of my body on a Facebook group and asked them kind of their opinions on it. And there were, I know at least 3 people that do have lipedema that had commented on my pictures and said, hey, I think that you may have lipedema, and if you do, you definitely need to be looking into that before looking at skin surgery. And so I started doing a ton of research and collecting every little piece of information I could find, getting on Facebook groups about lipedema, and realized pretty quickly that I most definitely had this disease. And being able to put all those pieces together of everything from my childhood leading up to now, the pain, why my body was so disproportionate, all of it just made so much sense. So of course I ordered my compression, I started getting that stuff figured out, and I started scheduling consults with different surgeons, just because there is, like I said in previous videos, there's nobody in Iowa that really knows anything about lipedema. And so that was going to be my best shot at figuring out and getting that diagnosis. So I had my first one with, I think he was out of Ohio, and they have you send in all your pictures pretty much naked, all of your information, your symptoms, all of that type of stuff. And then I did a virtual interview with him, and he said, just from looking at my pictures immediately, that he can confidently say that I do have lipedema. He stated that he saw a little bit in my abdomen maybe, but that I definitely had stage 2, but pretty much stage 3, like between a stage 2 and stage 3 of lipedema. He said that from the pictures, he couldn't really tell if I had it in my arms or not. But I know for a fact that I do, because my arms are the most painful. And I know it can be hard to tell because I do have a lot of excess skin on my arm from like the non-lipedema fat loss. So, but feeling it is very nodular, it's very thick, it's still painful, it hangs over my elbow. So yeah, I know that I do have it in my arms as well. At this point, I decided to go to my primary doctor and hope that they would be receptive and kind of know at least a little bit of what lipedema was. They, in fact, were not, which is pretty common. They just essentially said that, you know, they don't know enough on it and there's no codes for it with insurance. They really weren't much help, other than I did ask for a referral to my physical therapist that I found, so that they could at least start helping me with that process. When I was calling around to find my physical therapist, because you want one that specifically deals with lipedema, like I talked about in my previous video, she essentially told me that she was more than happy to work with me and that we would do everything that we could, but she did want me to be aware that with, you know, the differences in lymphedema and lipedema, and that a lot of really the only things we could do was lymphatic drain massage and compression, and those primarily help people with lymphedema. But since I am pursuing a surgery option, I need to have that documented anyways. So I'm going to go and see her for the first time next week and get that process started with her. Now we are going to talk about why I made the decision that surgery is going to be best for me and the steps that I'm taking to move towards that surgery and hopefully get my insurance to cover it. So after doing a lot of research and watching a lot of seminars and just getting as much information as possible, I essentially decided that I'm just going to have to figure out how to get the lipedema surgery. And it wasn't an easy decision to make because I don't tolerate pain very well. I have 3 small children, ages 2, 3, and 6, so having multiple surgeries is going to be rough, and even if I get insurance to cover it, which I'm pretty sure I will, I still have to come up with like $6,000 for my max out of pocket for my surgeries, and that is not going to be easy to do. So I guess with that being said, the reason that I came to that conclusion that I needed to have surgery was because I am only 24 years old and I am essentially a stage 3, if not actually a stage 3. And I've been in pain and I've been uncomfortable in my body my whole life already. And I know that there are a lot of women out there that didn't find out till way later in life, and I know I'm so fortunate to have found out now, but I still have so much of my life left that I cannot continue to do this for the rest of my life. I need to find a way to get it taken care of and to be able to run around with my kids without being in pain and to be able to find clothes that fit me properly. And of course, with me already being a stage 3, I have a lot of life left, and that's a lot of progression that this can make. So yeah, and that's ultimately why I made these decisions, that surgery has to happen, and that's what I'm going to do. The steps that I've taken so far to get ready for surgery is, of course, researching surgeons. I am going to have to go out of state no matter what in order to get this surgery because there's nobody experienced here. So I had kind of went between one or two different surgeons, both in the Chicago area. And I narrowed down my decision, and I'm very excited about that. And I joined a company called Cover Lipedema. I don't know. I know a lot of you may have heard of it and some of you may not, but they are amazing and they help you with getting your insurance to cover you, and will help you fight that, will help with the appeal, all of that type of stuff if there is one. I have an entire video planned of, getting insurance to cover this, and who Cover Lipedema is and what they do. I'm not sponsored, but of course I want to share all of the resources and information with you guys. So I'll get into more of that later. But Cover Lipedema actually recommended one of the surgeons that I was wanting to use in the first place, and has had a lot of success getting people covered with my specific insurance and with that doctor. So ultimately that made my decision. So I called, I got a consult set up. Originally I was going to see Dr. Gutowski. I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard of him, but he is very popular in the lipedema surgery community. But he has had a woman named Dr. Martin training with him for several years, and is now doing surgeries on her own. And I decided that I am going to go with her. And I know there's been a lot of interest in Dr. Martin and how that process is. So I'm definitely taking you guys on that journey with me to my consult. That's going to be a super awesome video, and I am so excited for that day. My consult with her is on June 10th, and I also start physical therapy June 2nd, and I am traveling to Chicago as well on June 1st to see a non-surgeon. That way I have two different forms of diagnosis. And of course I have to travel because nobody wants to learn about lipedema in Iowa yet, apparently. So that will be interesting. And I also, the final thing I've done to get prepared for surgery is I am in the process of working with my physical therapist and another team of physical therapists to help me get a functional capacity test done specifically for people with lipedema. And that is not without the help of the Cover Lipedema company that I was telling you about. So definitely be watching for that video because you'll want to hear about them. So essentially, I should be able to submit my file to insurance the beginning of September. The only reason it's going to be that long is because although I've been wearing compression-like clothes for years and things like that, I have not saved any of my receipts. I do not have any proof of that. So I have to have 3 months of conservative treatment, which would either be the lymphatic drain massage or the compression. So I have to wait 3 months to prove that that's not really taking away the lipedema. So that's going to be the last step before submitting it to insurance. And then after that, they will start looking at scheduling my surgery. most likely the beginning of next year. This is going to be the end of my video. There is definitely so many awesome things coming up in my journey as far as getting this surgery done. So if you want to follow along with that, I'm going to be vlogging essentially the entire day, going down to meet the non-surgeon. I'm also going to be doing that during my entire trip to go have my consult with the amazing Dr. Martin, and I'm hoping to get her to allow me to record when we're in there. So if you want to check that out, please like and subscribe, hit the bell button so that you get notification when it's up. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and coming to get to know just a little bit more about me. And as always, if you have any questions at all, or you even just want to add to this video, please just put a comment down there and I will definitely respond. So I will see you guys in the next video.